What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Marcus Bullock. I'm the CEO and founder of Flick Shop. I'm super excited to be able to have this conversation today around how family members are dealing with having a loved one in prison. Now, this conversation is really, really special to me because tonight, our very special guests are none other than my own mother, Sylvia Bullock, and my own sister, Melanie Bullock. Now, these are like literally like my blood mother and sister, and I'm super excited to be able to have them join me on today's special edition of Marcus X. And then the reason why we have in this special edition of Marcus X tonight is because this one is centered around the Mother's Day and now coming up Father's Day holidays. And I think that it's so important that we have conversations that are coming directly from the family members. These are the family members who are like the invisible victims of incarceration. We never really think about what the impact of a family is going through when someone gets incarcerated. We typically think about what, the person that's wearing handcuffs is going through, and how we can support them. But how are we supporting the people that actually support the people who are in prison? So I'm super excited to be able to have tonight's conversation joined with my one and only sister and my mom. Well, I have other sisters that I'm married into. I'm married into a beautiful family thanks to my wife, and now I have a bunch of dope sisters. But the sister from my mom, she's going to be on with us tonight. So I'm excited. They're going to request to join in a quick second. We're going to go live. I'm going to ask them some real honest, straight up questions because I want to be able to make sure that they are able to have their voice heard. I think it's important to have a different perspective. So without further ado, it looks like my sister's joining. Hopefully my mom will be on soon. I'm going to go ahead and let Melanie in. I'm super excited to be able to join her. This is going to be dope. Oh, yeah. It's a family affair. Did I just sing that out loud? What's up, y'all?
Hey,
What's happening with you?
how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy I got a chance to have you on it. I think this is like our first like conversation with you and I, and now with Mom being on in a second about my journey, like with like in this kind of platform.
It is.
I
This is
thought
the
so.
first time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nah, this is gonna be dope. So I'm gonna wait for Ma to come on. So when I'm not gonna wait for Ma to come on. I want to jump straight into it. When she comes on, she joins. I'll let her in. But what I typically do on these episodes of Marcus Eggs, I don't like to talk about the person because typically I have either some knowledge about the person, the guest. I read about the guest. I done some research about the guest, or I may have a personal relationship with the guest. Now, obviously, there's no more personal that I can get when it comes to you. But I would still love for you to be able to take like a few seconds to introduce yourself, and talk about your relationship with me and Flick Shop and all that kind of good stuff.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie, the big sister. um, uh, this journey has been very, very, very positive. I've loved watching it like every single day, just seeing you grow and in action and moving and things of that nature. This is an awesome ride, just to see your growth and to see how much you've grown over the years from 15, 14 or 15 to, I don't know if you want me to tell your age, but yeah.
Everybody know I'm getting up there. I'm trying to make it happen. Everybody know I'm getting up there. I'm climbing. But now, it has been. It's been an incredible journey. Obviously on my side as well. One of the things I think that's interesting about our personal relationship is like how much I wanted to be like you when I was younger. Do you remember those days?
I do. Now you probably think differently.
So stupid. Let me ask you: Do you remember those days like when I first went in?
I do. I remember those days. I have visions of those days sporadically as I watch you grow. And we would fight like siblings. How people say siblings fight, that's how we fought, like siblings. But it was a really, really tough time just knowing that um, you were going away somewhere for some period of time. And I don't even think it set in with me until after. All I heard the judge say was something that was totally astronomical. I didn't hear the suspension and things of that. And, I just thought, oh, you're going away for a long period of time, and I would be without you. So I took those years that we take for granted. I didn't have that time anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was instant. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I got sentenced to 23 years to life, and yeah, that suspended sentence like that like that was. You should live with that. Like, yo, what you mean 23 years? That's I think we all heard that when I first got sentenced.
Yeah.
Yeah. The All right, but was I one of the first people that you knew that went to jail? I mean, I know the answer to that, but well, I guess.
No, no.
What was the difference between someone else that you knew that went to jail versus me?
You're my sibling. You're the only one that I had by my side growing up, whether or not we fought or not. It was just, you and I. And so now I'm like, oh, gotta meet just me and mom now,
Yeah.
like
What did
I
it
don't
feel?
have
What did
my
it feel
brother
like though?
around.
Like, do you remember what it felt like? Do you remember like emotionally what that felt like?
It was an emptiness. It was probably a void that nobody could fill. The saying like, but to this day, it's a void that nobody else can fill. I can't. I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like when you go in, when I was going to prison, I think a lot of people feel this way. That when you going through it, I didn't feel as though like you guys were impacted by it as much as I was.
I think on the other side, I think everybody is impacted the same. I mean, I can't really say because I didn't have to walk in those shoes, and there's probably no comparison to that. But I would say that everybody was heavily affected.
Yeah, I think I learned that much later. Like what I mean, like in my adulthood. But I don't think when I first went in, I don't think I understood the. I don't think I understood that. Like when you get locked up, your entire family gets locked up too. You know what I mean? And like it impacts more than just the person in handcuffs. You know what I mean? Did you have any fears or any worries when I first went in?
Um, I guess like based off of movies, I guess that I watched, but I know I switched my phone number maybe 4 or 5 times because I ran the bill up accepting calls. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you had to do that. Hey, you finally joined us.
Good evening, family.
What's
I had
going
some
on,
technical
Ma?
difficulties.
Nah, it's good. We're glad that you were able to join. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. It's dope to have my mom and my sister on IG Live and talking about something that obviously impacted us in an incredible way. One of the things that I think I get most excited about with these kinds of conversations is like the amount of people who benefit from just having a real conversation about incarceration, right? Like I don't know if any of us understood like what that really meant when I first came home because I never talked about me going to prison or coming home from when I first got home, right? It wasn't until well after we launched Flick Shop where I started to feel comfortable with even sharing that I had a felony conviction. Ma, do you remember when I started sharing with people that I had a felony conviction?
Absolutely. And I remember not wanting you to share. I remember saying, leave the past in the past. Let's move ahead. Don't even think about what you've gone through over the last 8 years. So I wasn't all that happy about you and Flick Shop and telling the world that my son had a felony. I definitely did not want that. But I'm thankful today that you kept pursuing and you knew the vision that you had and you did awesome. You were doing awesome. So yeah. But I wasn't on the same page. Definitely not.
How did you feel about it when I first started sharing with people? I mean, Melanie, I think that the reality is by the time I started telling people, I had already had one company, already started one company. Like it was well into after I launched Flick Shop. Do you remember do you remember that those days, Melanie, when I would hire behind a felony or not?
I remember all of those days. Like they aren't that far, removed from me. Um, so yeah, I remember the paint company. I remember going through all of those the steps and, you know, everything that led you to get here. So it just makes me even more proud just to sit back and reflect on those times, just watching your growth from day to day.
Yeah, yeah. If you were to try to just say what the biggest, I mean, everyone knows I talk about like letters and photos, you know what I mean? It's like the biggest contributor to how you guys supported me when I was in prison. But if you were to say what you thought well before Flick Shop, what would you have thought was the largest contributor to my just showing me love or my success while I was still in prison?
Our visits, busting those doors wide open you know, on visit day,
Yeah,
and reflecting on like how um important that was. And you know, it's people don't really think about how you wake up and you get yourself together, you clean up good, you smell good, you look good, you come in and waiting for that visit, you know, looking out the window or waiting at the door, waiting for your visit to come, and you don't care how they coming, how they getting there, if you got enough money to get there, if you got a car, gas, coins in the bag or anything.
oh, that's
They just
right.
want to make sure that you come there with for the visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I know that support right there with making sure that you had a visit, no matter, you know, somebody coming every visit day, that helped you get through the time spent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mom, what would you say would have been like the reason why it was so important for you to stay connected to me during that journey?
I think that I needed to do that for you, for Melanie, and for me, just being there. And I think that just the opportunity to stay connected was just so critically important for all of us. And so it didn't matter, you know, if it was rain, snow, hail, or sleet. Every weekend we were going to make our way down to visit you. And I mean, that was just a part of the life that we, you know, were living at that time. So yeah.
What do you think was the biggest sacrifice that you made along that journey?
Uh, well, I think, you know, during that time, while you were there incarcerated, I wasn't like incarcerated, but there was a feeling of having been there, and that was a part of my life, just being there. So for me, during that period of time, I guess the greatest challenge was probably financially than, you know, than anything. But you were there and I was there, or we were there. So that's just the
When
life that we were living for 8 long years. Yeah.
when you say financially, how do you remember how did you support me financially?
Well, I mean, financially, every time I got paid, you know, every 2 weeks, you got some of that. Financially,
I mean, but
that
for our listeners who don't know what that means, like, what does that mean? I mean, I couldn't go into your bank account and withdraw cash from your bank account. What does that mean
okay.
for the listeners?
For those who are listening, when I got paid every 2 weeks, that meant that Marcus Bullock got an allowance, if you will, so that he could go to the grocery store or go to the canteen or wherever it was that you went to buy what you needed to buy. That was a part of, you know, of living for us. And financially, the
Hold
telephone
on, Ma, I
bill.
gotta stay there real quick because I mean I know you know what that means, but a lot of our audience won't know what that means. So what that really means is when my mom, you know, what she's saying is she would send me money. So in prison, you have to send people money, right? So that means that
Uh,
you got to go and like withdraw cash from out your bank account, go get a money order or a cashier's check, you know, get it filled out, addressed to me, write my name and my MA number on it, and then you'll put in an envelope and then you'll mail it to me while I was in prison. And
right.
when I would receive, or when a facility receives that money order, that cashier's check, they would put that money on an inmate account. And when that money goes on my inmate account, it allows me to go to the commissary and go purchase the things that I need, like soap or candy or noodles or chips or shampoo or any of the necessities.
Yeah.
I think that inmate number was 247-384 or something like that.
That
Two
was
four
my MA
seven
number,
three
two
eight
four seven
four.
three eight four.
Don't remind me. That number 247-384. So not only did you get, you know, your allowance or your funds every 2 weeks, but like I said, the telephone bill financially, sky, you know, rocketed. You know, my bill went from $80 to $300 a month. Not only that,
But
just
why?
traveling back.
It was like $8 for 15 minutes, and you would call back to back to back to back, and would get upset when somebody wouldn't, you know, accept your phone call or call somebody on three-way or
Yeah.
Until they said, Marcus,
yeah.
you need to hang up the phone. Your time has, what was that? The operator would say,
You have
something.
60 seconds left.
You had 60 seconds for this
Oh
call or
yeah,
something.
something, you know, like hurry up. And then
And he'd
you
be like, I'm
hang
gonna
up.
call you, and he'll say, I'm gonna call you right back.
Exactly. And so that ding, 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 money, 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 money. And then, gas, just drive it up and down, the highway. But at the same time, I was going to school and on the weekends. So I was closer in Virginia, going to Virginia Union University. So wherever you were, I would just leave school and go to whatever facility you were at that time. But I mean, it was a financial strain. I went from living in an apartment to living in an efficiency because the money just was not there. A lot of money, was spent during that time. I don't know, but it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Melanie, how would you say that, that you as my sister were preparing for me to come home? Was that something that you were thinking about? Were you like looking at the days getting closer? How were you thinking about that?
It was a real anticipation. It was really more so for my kids growing up so they can actually see you outside of this visiting room that we always have to, come to and know that there's a life outside of this space. And like, this really isn't our life because, they grew up in the penitentiary too for those years that we had to come and visit on the weekends. So it was just them having their uncle home and the only, uncle that they knew, as their mom's brother.
Yeah. What would you say? What's the thing that surprised you the most about that experience? Like, didn't see that coming, whether it was like something in me, something in the prison, visiting, phone, commissary. What was the thing that surprised you the most about that time?
To be honest, I think the most surprising thing was I had to breastfeed the kids in the visiting bathroom because you couldn't do certain things that we think is normal. Like when they explain it, it's like, okay, I guess I can't, just like whip out my breast in the visiting room with all of these men. But, certain things like you just don't think about, when you're going through that process. Like you go in with one diaper and change the kids and can't come in with no other diapers or you got to get a diaper from them. And things were just like totally, things that people don't normally deal with that surprisingly people actually are also too still dealing with those types of things.
Yeah. Mom, what's the one thing that you think surprised you about that whole time that I was in prison, that whole scenario when I went to prison?
Well, I mean, it was all brand new, a new experience. I guess sometimes when the correctional officers would look at you like you were the criminal yourself, looking at me as like, why are you even bothering to come here to visit? Sometimes their attitude was, just very disheartening to see how they were responding to people who were, trying to reach out to visit with their loved ones. The system itself is not one that encourages it and invites family. It's not a family-friendly environment, if you will, I guess. So, it's more discouraging, than encouraging. And you would think that you would want within those places, in those spaces, for people to feel like this is a place that you should be, that you need to be, that it helps if you're here. And I guess that was, one of the things that, sort of bothered me about the whole system itself and going from facility to facility. Yeah.
Ma, do you have any Mother's Day memories of when I was there?
Mother's Day for me was probably the worst day of all. And I say that because as a mother, I felt like I had failed because of where you were. So we went through Christmas, we went through Thanksgiving and various holidays, but Mother's Day was really always the worst for me. I remember one Sunday, a church invited me to preach on Mother's Day. And I preached from the subject, who will roll away the stones? And that was, the Marys going to the tomb to anoint Jesus's body. But when they got there, of course, the stone was rolled away. And the whole thing for me, as I was preaching, it was who will roll away this stone that is blocking my son from coming home? Who will roll away this stone of hurt and disappointment that I was experiencing Mother's Day after Mother's Day? It was like a brick wall. And as I said to you, this past Mother's Day, when because of the transitioning of my mother, just in July, that I was reminded again about that void that I experienced on Mother's Days when you were not home, and how I felt this past Mother's Day because I wasn't able to celebrate, with my mother. So Mother's Day was really the most challenging for me during that 8-year period. And one other thing I will say, and I'm so thankful for Prison Fellowship, because Prison Fellowship honored both of us. And when they honored us, that was a real sense of release, if you will, of my feelings about myself and Mother's Day, because there was so much love in the room and people were really celebrating us. And I'd never been celebrated like that before. And I think that was honestly a real healing. And that just happened a year ago,
Yeah.
after all of this time of being able to say, hey, you did the best that you could do, and look at what God has done, for your son now, and I say sometimes that during that process, that 8-year process as a mother, I would say, well, God has sat Marcus down, so eventually he will stand him up. And that's what I see now. I see now that you're standing up and you are strong and you're being that bright and shining light and you're telling your story, and I'm okay with it. And all is well.
Now you're okay with it. Today you're okay with it.
Now I'm okay with it.
You definitely wasn't cool with it back in the day. Like, why you keep telling these people you've been in prison, boy? Shut up.
Exactly.
So
look, now I can say that. I can say that now, and I can walk beside you and say, yes, it's okay. It happened, but you don't remain there. And just because it happened, it doesn't say who you really are as a person. So anyway, I'll stop rambling.
Nah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's always a blessing to be able to hear you share like that. But I kind of sort of want to stick there for a quick second. So what do you say to someone else that also is that's going through that right now, right? Like if they have a loved one that's going through, especially if they have a child that's going through incarceration, and they're thinking that same shame is baked in, or they're wondering, what can I do? And when I feel like I can't do anything, and I have years to deal with this kind of pain. And for you, it was even many years, even after I came home from prison, where you were still kind of sort of beating yourself up on the decision that I made as a kid. What do you say to someone else who's dealing with that kind of pain?
Well, I would say, first of all, try not to beat up on yourself, like I did. But don't give up on your loved one who is incarcerated. You need them as much as they need you. And that is so critically important, I think, to stay connected. Do the best that you can to stay connected to your loved one. I remember when it really first happened, and I wondered how would we get through this. And I think that I know it was my faith in God, and it was prayer, and for me it was reading Philippians in the New Testament. There are only 4 chapters in Philippians, and I read that, every day for a long time. I just read that, and that was because that particular text talks about joy. And so in the midst of the pain and the sorrow and the disappointment and all of that, it provided a sense of comfort. And so I say to you, don't give up, continue to love on them, support them, pray and ask God to help you get through it. You can, and you will get through it. And we did it, and God has blessed us tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah. Melanie, I want to piggyback over to you. What advice or recommendations do you have for someone who has a loved one that's coming home from prison, specifically around how they can support them before they come home? And then I want you to kind of sort of talk about how you think that they should support them after they come home.
I just think just being active, just being supportive in whichever capacity you can do so, whether it be financially, emotionally, mentally, just visiting. And I think you can't stop there once they come home. Like, you have to continue to give that same support that you were given while they were incarcerated, because once they come home, that's what they need the most. That continued support, that continued love, that continued guidance, and just letting them know that it's okay.
Yeah.
What does love look like for you?
Me.
Yeah. Like, how do you show love? How do you specifically show love? Somebody about to learn from you right now.
I show by my interest. I sometimes I go a little bit overboard, but if I really care and I really love, like, I give everything that I have within me to show that, I really care and love, no matter what it be. It doesn't have to be, it's not about what you can do for a person, but it's pretty much how you make them feel when they're around you in your presence. They know, like, I'm known for certain things, and people know me for who I am. But, if I love you, I love you. And you're going to feel that love some sort of way.
Nah, that's dope. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have one question I want to ask to the both of you guys before I close out. When I used to write letters to you guys, do you have any specific memories of a letter that I wrote you, or something that I talked about in any one of those letters? Ma, I'll start with you first.
I have one, and
if you don't have one, it's okay. But I just wanted to know if you had one.
Well, I do have one. I do,
oh, okay, cool.
I do have one. And if I had known, I would put my hand on it short to you. I was literally just looking at it this week.
But, a letter that I wrote when I was still in?
Yeah.
What was I talking about?
It was actually a birthday greeting. It was a birthday greeting, and you had made a card for me, and you had wrote a beautiful greeting about how you want to be there with me and look forward to being home with me. It's really beautiful. I wish I had it right here. I would just read it to you, but I still have that, and it's so meaningful. And I think I have another letter. When I graduated, you were not able to be at the graduation, but you sent a letter that talked about, you wish that you could be there with me to celebrate the graduation. Yeah, so I do have those 2 pieces that are still due to me. Yeah.
I think that's when you got that portrait. I think that's when she got that portrait with the pencil sketch on the canvas.
Yeah, no, I did that when I was in high school. I did that like right before I went in.
That was high school.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that when I was in my art class. I forgot my art teacher at Sula High School. Shout out to Sula High School. Melanie, do you remember any specific? You have any memories of any letters that I wrote, or anything I talked about, any email I wrote?
Yeah, she was very upset with me that I wouldn't name my last child Marcus.
I wanted Ethan's name to be Marcus so bad.
And I said, one day you're going to have your own Marcus. And sure enough,
You were right. And now I got a Marcus
you
Jr.
have your own Marcus.
Right.
But you did name him Marquise. Ethan
It's
Marquise,
Marquise,
right?
yes.
Ethan Marquise.
Shout out
Yeah,
Yes,
to
it
right.
was,
Ethan. Shout
that
That
out
was,
was
to
the
Ethan
closest you.
Marquise.
that's as close. But he was you were very upset with that letter to me. Like you could not understand why I wouldn't do that.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
no
didn't even
doubt,
know
no
about
doubt.
that.
I remember that very vividly. Yo, and listen, thank you
Mhm.
guys so much for spending some time with me this evening. It's dope to be able to have these kinds of moments. And I really think that it's important for other people to see that like family still exists even after prison, right? Like we were a family while I was in prison, and we continue to grow as a family after prison. It
Yes.
shows the value of keeping those connections strong and what can happen and how we can still have so much joy, so much laughter, so much fun even after those doors popped open. I wanted to be able to speak into all of the folks that are watching that may have a loved one that's incarcerated right now, and they're wondering what the dynamic of their relationship is going to look like after they come home from prison. And I'll tell you, it was really hard for me as well when I was there looking at my sister and my mom and celebrating holidays like Mother's Day and trying to figure out what to say to my mom or my sister or my grandmother or my aunts and my great aunts around a holiday, right? It was challenging for me, but I can only imagine what they were going through, knowing that there was nothing that they can say or do to pull me out of that scenario. So I shout out and celebrate all of you moms. I'm so grateful for my mom. I'm so grateful for my sister. I love you both. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this special edition of Marcus As. No one can take away from the love that we have in our family, and I'm super grateful for you guys for that.
You heard me say amen, right?
You over that, John preaching? You over there? You ready to get a
you the
sermon in?
preacher. I
You
just
can't
said
help it,
amen.
Reverend Doctor. Goodbye. I'll talk to y'all later. I love you
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank you
very
guys. Shout out
much.
to all
I
our
enjoyed
Fix
this
family
Love
time.
for
you.
this conversation.
Love
I'll
you.
see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.